helping brands maximize the value of their sponsorships and create more engaging experiences. This is the Market Share Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Market Share Sports Podcast. This is where we discuss how brands can make the most of their sponsorship investments in sports and entertainment properties, create more engaging experiences, and learn from some of the best in the business. Our guest today is Jeremy Lange. Jeremy is the general manager for Leavine Family Racing. LFR runs the 95 car driven by Kasey Kahne in the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series. I'm impressed with these guys and their commitment as a single car team to be competitive in NASCAR's top series. We had a great conversation, touched on the challenges of a single car team, NASCAR's Race Team Alliance, and a little bit about Vince McMahon. Yes, that Vince McMahon. Enjoy the conversation with our friend, Jeremy Lange. All right, we're in studio with Jeremy Lange from Leavine Family Racing. Jeremy, thanks for being here with us.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Good deal. Good times. All right, Jeremy, we start this podcast off, same question to every guest so far. We may change the question one day, but you're stuck with this one.
I'm guest 4, right?
You're guest number 4.
Okay.
You may be release number 3. We're still working on timing stuff.
That's fine.
All right, but this is good. So you're helping us craft this, and appreciate that. If you could sit down with one person who is alive today, don't give me anybody dead, alive today for an interview, who would that be?
That's a good question.
Take your time. It's a podcast. We have all the kind of time to think of it. So.
What were the other guests? What were the other guest answers?
George W.
Okay.
No, George H.W.
Okay.
Older Bush. And
got to get that one in quick.
The Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama.
So they got a real. We went historical and presidential.
I think I'll remove myself from the presidential conversation or the historic conversation. I'll probably go with a marketing genius of Vince McMahon, the WWE.
Oh, Vince McMahon, and that fits you very well.
Oh yeah.
So tell me what do you like about Vince?
Well, I'm a closet wrestling fan, which.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
It's out on our podcast.
Yeah, I think I said that once or twice before, so it's out there. And I blame my dad for this because growing up I wanted to watch wrestling, and he's like that stuff is nonsense. Why do you want to watch that? And now that I have the choice to watch anything I want, I watch it. Vince McMahon, I think he's a promoting genius, a marketing genius, a creative thinker, pretty strong business person. He makes guys in tights with made up names and personas.
Convinces them to wear tights in public like that.
Yeah.
First of all,
dye your hair, shave your head, do whatever, pierce your body, do whatever you want to do. Jump off a turnbuckle and land on somebody else and get paid to do it, and then do it the next night and the next night and the next night. And if they don't, someone else will. It's pretty. I mean, it's just different. And I think from a point of view, from a fan. It's a soap opera for guys. I mean, the storylines, they've changed with times. They've gone through different eras. They've gone through different thematics and different thinking around it. That it's changed and adapted with times. And they play on pop culture and they create pop culture. They create the divas. They create the ladies wrestling division.
And what's crazy is. When everybody was like, when we were growing up, it was all these battle convincing me that it wasn't fake, right? Yeah. So it was like, and then once it was clear that it was fake to all of us, he continued to grow it.
He embraced it.
Absolutely.
And called it sports entertainment.
And we bought it.
Yeah. And we still buy it.
Yeah.
And now they revolutionized pay-per-view on cable and DirecTV. And then he has an app now that's basically $10 a month and you get unlimited content and historic content. And he bought his competition in buying WCW and making that a storyline of the invasion of WCW and the NWO and all these guys. It was genius. He gave Hulk Hogan 10 more years of career probably. That I don't know. Not that I'm a Hulk Hogan fan, but it was. I still to this day, it's I catch the pay-per-view. WrestleMania's coming up soon, so it's WrestleMania season.
It's like what I love is like you didn't just come up with this because he's a good promoter. It's like you're in. You know what's going on with what he's doing today.
And being a California kid, born in California and then raised in Connecticut, driving past the WWF is what I grew up with it as. Now the WWE headquarters there in Stamford, Connecticut. It's just always been there. It's just something that's near and dear to my heart.
What do you think about his chances of XFL Part 2?
I think the second round will be much different and better than the first round. I think the first round he was shock and awe. The crazy names, and the ridiculous plays. And
did you see the 30 for 30 on?
I did. Yeah,
that was awesome. It was very good.
It's gonna be. I think it'll be better because it's gonna be more. It's gonna be not the NFL, but not the XFL of what we thought it was.
Right.
Basil DeVito actually was the commissioner of the first XFL. And I had the privilege of sitting with Basil DeVito a handful of years ago in his office in Stamford, Connecticut, and talking about just being Vince's right-hand man and being all this stuff. It's a machine. It's a marketing machine. Wow. And he owns the names of the guys. Like The Rock is now Dwayne Johnson because I think Vince owns The Rock. WWE owns the name The Rock.
Wow.
Owns the persona. I mean, you can go Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I can go on and on talking about wrestling. So
wow,
we can make a podcast on wrestling.
That's what we should do. We'll come back.
I'll come back and
talk
do
about that. All right, okay.
I can talk for hours.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
When I'm bored and watching football, or just sitting there on the couch, I will type in an old wrestling name on Wikipedia and then scroll through and find another wrestling name and click on that guy and just go and go and go.
See, my problem when we get into wrestling stuff is I go a little bit older than you, so I go back further and then I quit following. Okay. So, I go back
like Bruno
to
Sammartino and those guys.
Oh yeah, and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat when he was.
I will say the best match ever seen me on TV or anywhere was Ricky the Dragon versus Macho Man Savage with George the Animal Steel eating turnbuckles in the corner and. So that guy actually.
We had guys like Abdullah the Butcher.
Abdullah the Butcher was great. Take a fork to the forehead.
Mr. Wrestling #1, Mr. Wrestling #2. We had Thunderbolt Patterson. Saw Andre the Giant live at Bell Auditorium in Augusta, Georgia. And
one of my favorite guys was Don the Rock Morocco. I used to love Don the Rock with Mr. Fuji as his manager.
Mr. Fuji.
and my favorite all-time tag team would be the British Bulldogs with Captain Lou Albano.
Yeah.
Nothing better than rubber bands coming from your face.
And some people only know him as the father figure in the Cyndi Lauper video.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So, but for others, so dude, that's hilarious. That's a good discussion.
In fact, I was just watching. I think it's called They Live with Roddy Piper. When you ever seen it's a sci-fi when he puts on glasses and he's surrounded by aliens. He does the scene without the glasses, and it goes. It's probably the worst produced movie ever. But if you watch it,
however, I've watched it.
He's walking through the streets of Los Angeles or whatever city he's in. And he puts on these goggles and he realizes that there's subliminal signs behind this stuff that are making. I don't know if they're making the aliens do certain things or not, but he'll be buying produce from some guy at the grocery store and the guy's an alien but without the glasses he looks human. It is awesome.
Predecessor for Men in Black.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. It was way before its time. Let's put it that way.
Roddy Piper, first guy. And, of course, I was young enough, didn't realize it was called a kilt. I thought it just, dude, why is he wearing a skirt? I don't understand what's going on.
But he had stuff underneath it.
Yes, he did, thankfully.
And now we have Ronda Rousey.
What's she doing?
Making her debut in WrestleMania this in April, yeah. And she actually got I believe she asked Piper if she could use the moniker or the nickname of Rowdy.
She didn't have to go to Kyle Busch for that?
No, she had to go. She went right to Piper, and I think she came out. She announced her signing a month ago or so at WWE, and she came out wearing actually Piper's jacket. So that I think she got from his son. So there's a good connection there.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you're
gonna have a lot more.
Listen, I mean,
you're gonna have a lot more MMA guys going to WWE, like Brock Lesnar. I mean, tell me it's not real. Some of it's not real. When Brock is currently the WWE champion, I guess. But he also was the UFC heavyweight champion. I mean, there's got to be a little bit of fight. I mean, I've always had this argument with my dad from day one. Some of it's got to be real. Well, you can't jump off someone from 20 feet and land on someone.
Agreed.
Shane McMahon's a nut. If you've seen any of the Shane McMahon, who is the son of Vince McMahon, jumps off a 20-foot cage or 30-foot cage and lands through a table, and it's like he gets carried off in a stretcher. He's got to get hurt doing that.
Yes, I agree with you. I heard somebody talking about self-defense, and they were talking about a 90-pound woman And one of the key things in self-defense is using your body weight.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like even for a 90-pound woman, nobody wants 90 pounds landing on your throat.
No.
Right. So there's ways to use your weight. So you talk about these guys who are 250, I don't know, 260, whatever they are, and some of them even bigger, landing on each other.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
right.
it's gotta hurt.
Certainly it's going to hurt.
You got to land the right way, they say.
Yeah.
You're taught, you're trained, but if you don't land the right way, you're breaking something.
Yeah.
You or someone else.
Yeah.
Or a table.
And even if they don't, it's still good.
I mean,
it's great entertainment.
One of the best guys of all time was Cactus Jack, who then became Mankind, who's better known as Mick Foley. And he used to do barbed wire baseball bat matches. So, and I used to also go in college. We used to go to, this is really bad, ECW in South Philly called Extreme Championship Wrestling. And I mean, they used to have
in high schools.
They would be like, it
small
was in a
venues?
banquet hall, basically a bingo hall.
Yeah.
And that's where guys like Rob Van Dam and Taz and all these guys would come up and do these stuff. And they used to have, and that's where hardcore matches first started, was tables, ladders, and chairs. And you'd have guys jumping. I mean, it was extreme.
We did in college. It's the first time I'd been to a match in a long time. We went over to Greenville, and never forget it. I don't remember the wrestlers who were there, but I'll just never forget you're sitting there watching it, and one guy just pulls some crazy move, comes off. Guy's holding his foot, whatever. He's like a 300-something pound dude, and he just gets airborne, comes out roundhouse kick to the head, and I just never forget the place going nuts, man. You thought he hit a last-second shot to win
Grand Slam to win the World Series, Game 7 of the World Series.
Holding 1 on 16 at the Masters or something. It was just kind of like, oh my gosh. And it's just like, wait a minute, this is a show. What am I doing?
It's crazy.
It's great. It's good stuff.
I will say that I thought it was, as a kid, I thought it was real. And then I went to a match, and Nikolai Volkov and Hacksaw Jim Duggan were wrestling each other.
Yes.
So USSR versus USA, right? And I'll never forget, after the match, I was outside with all my buddies and my parents, I don't know if a parent, whatever, and they drove off in the same Cadillac. And I was like, wait, they just beat the crap out of each other for 10 minutes, and they don't like each other. It's foreign enemies, all these foreign countries, Cold War, all this stuff. And I was like, well, they just drove off in the same Cadillac?
Wait a minute.
This doesn't make any sense.
Koloff's got a southern accent? What's going on with that? Where'd that come from?
Why is Hacksaw speaking Russian?
That's hilarious.
So Vince McMahon, long story short.
That would be a very good answer. And I can assure you, when people turned into the podcast today and knew you were on, they weren't expecting 12 minutes at the beginning of
some actually probably
wrestling.
were, but
well, maybe some were. You're probably right. Hey, you are Jeremy is the general manager at Leavine Family Racing. Talk to me about Leavine. How'd you get there?
After Best Buy, a friend of mine who works in Charlotte he and I were talking. He said, hey, I got an opportunity for you that you might be interested in. And I talked to, he hooked me with Bob Leavine, who's the managing partner and primary owner of the race team and founder of the race team. And Bob and I started talking. I think it was over a month. He was driving in the Rockies with his wife Sharon in their Corvette. And every once in a while, we'd be talking, and he'd lose cell coverage, and he'd call back the next day, and he would give me projects and tasks to go back and forth. And it lasted about a month. This is 4.5 years ago.
Wow.
So it'll be 5 years in July. My first race was the Brickyard 5 years ago, and we missed it. And I went home and talked to Andrea, and I said, I'm not sure I made the right choice. But I couldn't be happier 5 years later. I love working with the people at the race team, the culture we built, the people we've added, the working with Bob and working for Bob and Sharon has been a treat. We've added owners over the years, Matt DiLiberto and Tom Williams, but the ownership is demanding but fair. And I think it's our 8th season. I'm proud of what we built. We're not done yet by any means. We've had a bit of a rough start to the year, but there's a combination of things that complain: new driver, new crew chief, new Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 body we're getting used to. But I think overall, we have high hopes. We don't feel like a single car team can't make it. We feel that we can make a difference, and we strive for more. And every year we use a tagline. A couple years ago it was strive. This year our word is progression, and we're trying to progress and move forward and take that next step, and we're committed to it. Our ownership's committed to it. Our driver, Kasey Kahne's committed to it. Our crew chief, Travis Mack's committed to it. Our guys in the shop are committed to it. We just need to break through that wall, and I think we're on the cusp of something good.
Yeah.
And want to be better, and obviously our goal is to be great. Our goal every week is to go to the racetrack and win. Without the mentality, we won't get there.
Well, I'll tell you one of the things I love about my interaction with you since you've been there over the last 5 years is I've been impressed from the beginning. One, just as you said, the commitment for the ownership group to be competitive and to give you what you need to take a single car team and get there. I've been really impressed with Jeremy and his guys and their. You've been in this sport longer than just 5 years. You've touched it in some way for about a dozen or so or more, and you've been on different sides of the desk, on the agency side, the sponsor side, and so you've got the ability to look at the property, from the sponsor side of the desk, to be creative, to be aggressive, to be scrappy. I think it's a term that would define you guys over the last. You've been willing to try new things. You've gone out on a limb at different times, and it's been fun to watch. And you've had some success as a single car team. Talk about just some of the challenges. So folks who may be listening from the sponsor side of the desk here, some of the challenges you guys have as a single car team. Some of them are maybe common sense to those who are around the sport, but then I'll ask some questions. You tell me just how you guys are tackling. It's one against, say, a 4-car team or whatever.
Yeah, I think the key is it's truly David versus Goliath. We are a 1-car team fighting 2 and 3 and 4-car teams every week. They're all independently. Those 4-car teams are all racing themselves individually, but when it comes to marketing and sales and PR, it's a collaborative effort. So we really have to do more. And we've gotten a late start at the dance, if you want to say that, because we're only in our 8th season and we're racing against teams that have been doing this for 25, 30, and more years.
Yeah, that's a huge point. Yeah.
We have to build our credibility. We have to build. And up until 3 years ago, we were a part-time team. We didn't race a full season until the charge system came out in 2016. Was our first full season of racing. So it's really been, if you want to say full-time racing every week, we've only been doing, this is only truly our 3rd season of doing that. And
I forgot about that.
That's tough.
Yeah.
So we went from racing 20 races. We went from racing 8 to 10 races to 20 races to 36 overnight. And trying to get people to buy into going from a part-time team to a full-time team took time. Yeah. And getting the right people. And not everyone that was there for the 20 race schedule was the right person for a 36 race schedule. And that was tough. But we're getting there slowly and surely. So we're going to the racetrack every week. Racing teams have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
And selling for a long time, and marketing and doing PR for a long time. Social media, we're all in the base of the same boat in a sense. We're lucky to have a driver who has over 1 million Twitter followers, which helps tremendously. Yeah. But as far as a team, we're still building our brand. We're still if you look at the crawl, walk, run mentality, we're not near running, and I think we're still taking steps, but still falling taking those steps. Yeah. We're steady at crawling, but we're not surely steady at walking. I think we had moments of brilliance last year of some top 10 finishes and a lot of top 20 finishes, and this year we'll get there, but it's going to take time, and we just need to have patience and stick to the plan and stick to our processes and procedures that we put in place to try and ensure that if you put in the hard work correctly, the results will follow.
Yeah. Well, you guys have certainly put in the effort. I love the David and Goliath analogy, and I would say one of the coolest things about that whole story, taking all the way back, is David was willing to walk out into the valley and fight, right? And you guys show up every week, and I love the analogy in that sense.
We actually have a David versus Goliath mural in our shop because it speaks to what we're trying to do. Yeah. We truly are fighting. I don't say giants; it's a little overkill, but essentially, but we all put our pants on one leg at a time, right? But I think it's just history and experience, and we'll get there. It just takes time, and the challenge is we're every year that we gain experience, so does our competition. So you really never gain on the competition. You're always trying to leapfrog them, but it's hard. It's a very demanding sport, and every week it changes. So you go what worked last week might not work this week at the racetrack.
Yeah, I'll be different. Talk about the you're not alone in this. Obviously, you guys I think have been smart on different alliances, on different manufacturers. You Chevrolet now.
Yep. So it's almost impossible to be successful in this sport as a single car team with no alliance. And when you mean alliance, it really comes down to the information you're receiving at the racetrack. Who do you talk to? Who do you get the help from? And we have been in alliance. This is our third season with RCR and Richard Chiltis Racing, and we run ECR engines. And so that's Chevrolet. And it's really been helpful, and it's a great resource to fall back on. It doesn't guarantee you speed at all. What it does is it guarantees you an open book of information to read through, look through, but you're still trying to find that needle in the haystack. Speed's not free, and doesn't grow on trees. And if it did, it'd be easy, right? Kind of like sponsorships.
Right.
If you know where the if you know where the sponsorship tree or the speed tree is, let me know, because we can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But you're looking for speed, and you're looking for information, technology support, and RCR does a fantastic job offering that. It comes down to us gathering it, deciphering it, and then using it.
I was gonna say it's like any other data. It's like any other partnership.
It's only as good as people using it.
Yeah, you got to figure out what to do with it.
Like
so there's still opportunity for you to be independent too. Yeah,
correct.
So it's like, RCR is running their 3 cars or 4 cars, whatever they're up to now, or running certain way this week. Why aren't we running that? Or
correct,
we could run better. Take the same information. If we can do something different with it, then there's opportunity.
Exactly. Our goal is to be the best RCR car out there, including those cars.
Yeah.
And we can't. The way we look at it is we can't be the best Chevrolet until we're the best RCR team. And we can't be the best. We can't win races until we're the best Chevrolet team.
Yeah.
So that's you got to take those steps, and you have to use the information, like you said. It's a resource, but at the end of the day, it comes down to using your brain and making the right educated decision based on knowledge, the information, and obviously what your driver's telling you the car's doing.
You made mention to this a second ago. You either made mention to it or I went there basically based on something you said that kind of took me there. Talk about the culture of the team. Maybe not the brand. You're still forming the brand. I don't know if you would say you defined that yet about who you are, but certainly culture is important in what you guys are creating there. Talk about that.
Yeah, it's important for us to have the right people and treat them fairly, but give them the tools to succeed. And we really feel that our culture is based on putting the people in the right spot to succeed and making sure they have the resources to do their job. And you might not always get what you want, but you get what you need. And I think we've increased our budget every year over the last, since I've been there 5 years, which is good or bad from, I guess, from the sport. But you don't get better without spending more money. Simple.
Yeah.
Our results aren't there to date this year, but I think they will come. I'm confident they will come. We are confident that they'll come. But it's really, our people are your resource. We talked about RCR information. Well, it's great if we buy the information, but if we don't have the right people to use the information, what's the point of the information, right? If the tree falls in the woods, does it really make noise if no one's there to hear it?
Right.
And I think if you think about that, the key is empowering our people to do their job and put them in places to do their job. And Bob uses the phrase, pat them on the back when they do well, and pat them on the butt when they need a little reinforcement. And he believes in accountability, and I think that's part of the culture that we have, is holding people accountable for what they do.
Yeah.
And if you can't lean on the person next to you, it's not a team.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you need to do your job first before you can do someone else's job or worry about someone else's job. If you think of football, the running play doesn't work if the offensive linemen are pass blocking and not run blocking, right? Or the
wide receiver doesn't
doesn't block the outside and hold the edge, the running back's not getting to the edge and going up the sidelines, right? So I think everyone has to do their part, and that wide receiver takes pride in holding that block, so the running back is sprung for a 30, 40-yard run.
Right.
We have to do the same thing, and that's the mentality we have to continue to work on and continue to get better, because it is a team sport. We're only as good as the cars that we put on the racetrack. We're only as good as the mechanics in the garage working on those cars, or the engineers and Travis making those calls, and Kasey driving the car. But it starts in the shop. It starts with preparation. You know, someone told me a long time ago that 80% or the large percentage of the work at a race team is done before you can get to the racetrack. If you unload a good car, the odds are you'll be good all weekend. Yeah. And that's what we need to focus on it and maintain and improve on. Yeah. Or continue to improve on.
Again, I love the small team, making a lot of good decisions with partnerships and doing a lot of the right things behind the scenes. We've seen it. We have had the opportunity to interact with your team enough and you guys enough to see your passion for putting a good product on the track and giving good value to sponsors, and that's why we wanted to have you on. I think it's cool to hear, so thanks for that.
No problem.
Let me ask you this. One of the things that I think in the sport in general that I think has been beneficial to single car teams is the Race Team Alliance. And again, this isn't a news organization. We're not trying to do a 60 minutes interview profile on stuff here, but and I know a lot of this stuff is all behind the scenes. But I think it's important. There's some things that have happened in NASCAR that are really good for sponsors to understand how it's benefited or how it benefits smaller operations like yours. Talk about the Race Team Alliance quickly, just high level, just kind of what it's created for, what it's doing, and kind of the voice it's giving you guys.
Yeah, I'll kind of combine the two. I'll combine the RTA and the charter system. The RTA was launched before the charter system, but the charter system is a product or a byproduct of the RTA working with NASCAR. Yeah. I think that the two key takeaways I would say from the RTA and the charter system would be that it's created a collective voice for the teams, small, medium, and large. It's also, I think, created more collaboration amongst the teams with the sanctioning body, the tracks, media, and the drivers. And a perfect example of that would be the stage racing that we implemented last year. That was a product of all of those groups working together to find a solution or an idea that could improve the overall product on the track. Because at the end of the day, our ultimate goal as race teams, race car drivers, racetracks, or sanctioning body or media is putting the best product on the racetrack. And I believe that the stage racing has been a improvement to the sport. It's given, it's made it more like the other stick and ball sports and giving quarters, or I guess this is segments or stages. But it gives breaks, guaranteed breaks for the media, for the fans, for the guy sitting in the grandstands. He knows that he can go get a beer or a hot dog or go to the bathroom at lap 75. Yeah.
And it creates intensity on the track.
It does.
I mean, it's like
and those points matter.
Yeah, the clock's running out at the end of a quarter.
Yeah.
If we can get a few more plays in, or if we can get one more score in.
Or it brings different strategy into play. Do you pit earlier and then stay out during the stage break? There's all different things. If you look at Truex last year had a fantastic season. Stage points helped him throughout the playoffs get to Homestead and dominate Homestead and win the championship. I mean, granted, the stages aren't why he won the championship. He won the championship because Cole Pern and the team did a great job building race cars and being consistent, like you said. But the stages it's brought a different element of the sport, and we have to adapt and change and make the right decisions as a sport to improve the overall product. And I think the RTA is a step in the right direction of doing that, and the charge system is a step in the right. We're in the early stages of those. If you think about how early on our race team is in 8 years, the RTA and the charge system versus the franchises of the NFL and the NFLPA and all those different things, we're light years behind where they are, but we're making the steps to get to where they need to go so that we have a collective voice amongst all those parties and stakeholders in the sport to ultimately improve the sport and make it better. Yeah.
And I got to say, when I first heard about the stages, I knew there were a lot smarter people in racing than me who were making those decisions. But my first thought was, why are we stopping the race? Why are we scheduling breaks? I didn't get that. man, it didn't take 3 races, and I realized this is pretty cool.
Well,
And
we're the
really
only. If you
enhanced
think about it, we're the only sport that breaks away from live action for a commercial.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if the Patriots are driving in the Super Bowl to beat the Falcons, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we gotta go to commercial break."
Yeah.
And Brady throws a game-tying touchdown.
Right.
I mean, that's and not that what we did in the past was wrong, but it doesn't mean you can't make it better.
Right.
And I think the challenge with any decision you make is you're going to have people who are against it and for it. The goal is to make decisions that the majority of people are for,
Yeah.
and the people who are against it come around to it.
Yeah.
That's the goal. You want to attract new. We need and ideas that we have in the sport. We need to attract new fans and get that younger demographic and younger generation to start watching it, so we can grow and continue to maintain and grow.
We had Rick Jones was a previous guest on our podcast. He told the story of a gentleman in San Antonio who turned 100 years old, and they did an interview. And the interviewer said, Mr. So-and-so, over the course of your life, you've seen a lot of changes. And his quote was, "Yeah, and I was against every one of them." Right? So it's like we get hung up so many times on changes and trying to find that balance of what is the right direction to go. It seems like the stages are a good example of one that's actually worked. And so I like the one of the other things about the RTA that I'll add to the level that I can, because I don't know anything going on behind the scenes.
I will confirm nor
you will
deny.
Confirm, neither either one. Is I do love the fact that all of a sudden you have, with the charters, that you do have a seat at the table, right?
Yeah.
And I think that has served the sport very well to say, hey, Leavine Family Racing gets a chance to have some input.
Yeah, I think that's an important part. Also, it helped us. Previous to the charter system, we had to qualify for races.
Yeah.
And now it gives our Todd and our sales team the ability to go in and meet with these Fortune 500 companies like everyone else in the sport and say, hey, we're racing 36 times this year.
Right.
And we qualify still, but we're not going home. And you're on the car guaranteed. Yeah. That's a huge part. And it also, as far as the financial point of view, it helped. A big positive of the charter system is that it helped teams with their budgets to know that a guaranteed percentage of money would be coming in.
Yeah.
And then like it should be, you race for the rest of it.
Right. Yeah.
Or a portion of it.
Let me ask you this. Some of the other changes in the sport. Personally, I like the youth movement that we're seeing with our drivers. As a general manager of a team, talk to me about the product that we're getting and kind of this movement with this young talent coming in.
I think it was inevitable to have younger drivers come up because as you have older drivers phasing out, there's that, it attracts a younger demographic. It's also in the down economy with sponsorship. I mean, no disrespect to the younger guys, they're a little more affordable than the proven veterans.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, sponsorship drives a lot of this, and I think you're seeing this. I don't want to say it's correcting itself; it's righting itself. But I think these guys, these young up-and-comers, are talented and they deserve the rides. And I think the Chase Elliott's and the Ryan Blaney's of the world and the William Byrons, they've earned the right to be in these cars. Yeah. Bubba Wallace has earned the right to be in that car. And they're proving it and they're showing it this year. They're running well and they've shown it last year. And I think, it's a credit to them and their skill sets and the teams for giving them a shot to get in those seats.
Agreed. I think that one of the things I've always said about NASCAR, it's fortunate for the guys who can do it. It's unfortunate in some ways too. But you don't have to get out of the car until you're 50. And even then, there's some I'm not really sure they need to. Yeah,
Exactly. I agree.
That. And so, Matt Kenseth, we're big fans of, and 46 years old. I think it's his age, and won last year. Doesn't have a ride this year. Right. So he's still at the top of his game. We're still competing at a high level, and but it's been unfortunate for a lot of years. There's a lot of young talent has come, and there just weren't seats available. Right. So
good seats.
Yeah. If you start going down this path of the funnel and what it takes to get into drivers, and we've talked about it on previous podcasts, I won't go into it all again, but it's just hard. And so we kind of every sport goes through this. There are some outliers like Tom Brady who play till they're 48 years old or whatever he wants to play till.
And they'll keep winning.
Yeah, and still win. But for the most part, you get to a certain point, and we're comfortable with our football teams that the quarterback changes over when they turn about 34, 35.
And running backs at 30.
Yes,
so.
Exactly. And so I think it's good to see these guys are running with their tongue hanging out every lap. I think that's NASCAR drivers in general. I think it does add something. It's almost like college baseball in some ways, where you get these guys are still figuring out some things, and so they're learning. They're making some strategy calls that are kind of like, or giving some feedback that maybe that wasn't quite right. Mm-hmm. So it adds another variable to it. It'll be interesting to see.
I agree. I also don't think it's if you look at just, I don't want to single out just the drivers. There's a youth movement even on the crew chief side and the
engineers and different things.
Engineers,
how else changing,
mechanics and stuff, because the sport's grueling.
Yeah,
but they know what they get.
Very good call out.
They know what they're getting into when they sign up for the sport. So I'm not making excuses for it, but it's and they're diehards, passionate about the sport. So, but there's still a youth movement even from engineers, and not just drivers, but engineers, crew chiefs, mechanics. All those different things are all, there's lots of young talent coming up through different school programs and technical universities and stuff. So where, you don't have to be just a driver to do that. And, we look at youth across the board because you want to get better.
You want new thinking to come in. Combine it with veterans who.
Yeah, it's a good mix. Experience and youth bring a good thing because like you said earlier, youth brings a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
And the experienced veteran might not be open or think it differently, but they might be, they have to be open to change also.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge opportunity for even a small team. Mm-hmm. Right? You already called it out. You're on a totally even playing field when it comes to social media and promotion of your drivers and the stuff you're doing. And you guys are doing some creative stuff, which I want to get into next. But the ability to change. You don't have 300 guys who've been with you for 12 years.
Right.
That you have to, that you owe a position to or you have loyalty to or whatever. Not that you don't have loyalty, but you get what I'm saying. It's easier as a small company. You can adjust, you can flex, and you can try something new.
Yeah, we're much more like
fail
a speedboat.
Quickly, and
we're
then
a
you can go
speedboat
next.
versus an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
We can adjust and change and divert and change our path or our course of what you may say to try something different.
Well, and again, I'll say it again. What I love is you guys are willing to do that too, and that's kind of the mindset I think you bring to the table. You're not just riding this out and saying, "Boy, we can just collect a few more checks, and if we perform well, okay. If we don't, it's all about we want to be there and finishing in the top 10 on a consistent basis. So I love it. Let's talk about some things you're doing creatively that I think are cool for your sponsors to see. I think that's cool for your fans to see. And the first one I'm going to ask you about, and admittedly, you've already busted my chops for not having checked it out already, but Conversations in Camaros. Talk about what's going on there.
We really we have a lot of people on our team who are pop culture freaks or geeks, and I think it came across kind of like Carpool Karaoke meets, I think it's called Coffee with Comedians and Cars.
Comedians and Cars.
With Jerry Seinfeld.
Coffee, yeah.
So the idea of Conversations in Camaros is really twofold. It's to provide some fun content that we control and we own, and we weren't sure how to do it. We wanted to have a guest host drive the car and pick somebody up or whatever. We also wanted to promote the Camaro Z01. Yeah. So the concept of the car is the concept of the show is Daryl Mott, who is with Fox. He's our host. He basically invites a guest. Our first episode was Kasey Kahne. So Kasey drove the Camaro Z01 up and down around Concord and Harrisburg, just talking to Daryl. And I think it showed a different side of Kasey. Some of his hardcore fans know, but it's just a simple conversation and it's ongoing. It's basically one take with a few edits here and there. No different than this podcast and the sorts, but it's with GoPros in a car, and we're promoting the Camaro, and we're promoting, giving our fan base and an ability to learn more about who we are as a race team, what we want to do, some fun, engaging content. And at the end of the day, it gives us content to promote, share, distribute, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So
Again,
our plan is to have 9 or 10 of these over the course of this year, and then do it again next year.
Cool. I think it's I think it's great. I get another example of I can put a PowerPoint presentation and show you who we are.
Yeah.
Or here's another way for you to see a little bit about our team and kind of the creative stuff that we're trying to.
Maybe I'll get Vince McMahon on one of these episodes.
If you get him in town, see if he'll come to our podcast afterwards. But only if you're in the room together, because I just want to be the fly on the wall when you guys start talking about. Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not sure I
get
I'm not sure I get a word in edgewise with Vince McMahon. Promoting sensation.
Another thing I think you guys are doing is pretty cool. I'd like folks to know about is kind of what you're doing to kind of just build interest in the sport with youth movement. You guys have, I believe this is your 4th year for Camp 95.
Yep.
Talk about what's going on there.
Yeah, we started it 4 years ago as a way to give back to the community and show high school students basically there's more to racing than just being the race car driver or the crew chief or what they see on TV. And that there's endless jobs behind the scenes, from tracks to PR to social media to engineers to marketing, sales, whatever it may be. So this is the 4th year, and the camp is July 10th and July 11th of this year, and I believe applications start on LFR95.com on April 2nd, and it'll run. Applications will be open through May, and the idea is to provide not only from the race team point of view, but bring in tracks, bring in agencies, bring in people who are involved in the sport from different sides of the desk to provide and share their experiences. We bring in ECR, and they do an engine demonstration, which always is the best thing. The kids love it.
Absolutely.
I mean, we fire in years past, it was always between Sonoma and Daytona. So we'd have the Daytona July car sitting out there, and they'd rev that thing up, and the kids loved it. Yeah. We've had campers as far. Last year we had 24 campers. We accept 25 campers every year. And we had 24 campers last year. One kid couldn't make it last minute. We have had campers as far as California, and as far north as, I want to say, New Hampshire, maybe Vermont, as far south as Miami.
Wow. And
we have students who are currently involved, high school students who are currently involved at Duke's engineering program, UNC Charlotte's engineering program. So we have a pretty good track record of these kids being involved. We've had a handful of campers who have been, I think we have one camper who's been there 3 years. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure he can be for the 4th because I think he graduated. We have a camper.
He's coming back as a professor.
He'll come back as a guest speaker.
Counsel.
And what we do also is we have Cameron is a student currently at UNC Charlotte, and he actually comes back and guest speaks at Camp 95. He comes during lunch, and it's a 2-day, like I said, July 10th and 11th, and we we usually start around lunchtime on the 10th. It'll go until 5 o'clock on the 10th, on I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we'll start in the morning for breakfast and end mid-afternoon. Yeah. And they get a full day. Our first camp was 1 day long, and then we went to 2 days. We've always tweaked with going to 3, but it's a lot for these. We don't offer support for transportation. It's on their own. So they apply. They have to fill out, ask a couple questions, and we judge the applicants based on the answers to the questions, and then we admit the applicants, and they're on their own as far as travel and hotel. Okay. But it's a rewarding experience for everyone in our team, from the guys in the back to our shop foreman to the sales team to our crew chief to our ownership. It's a way for, it goes back to the question you asked about our culture. Yeah. We really feel that to engage in the community and create an atmosphere that provides these kids and these high school students interested in our sport an avenue to learn more about the sport is rewarding enough for us that even if it cost us a lot of money, we'd still do it. Yeah. Because it's something that we do. I believe we're the only one in the sport that does a camp like this for high school students. Mm-hmm. Some might go speak to high schools, but we're the only ones that invite them to our shop and make them a part of our team. And I know for a fact that I still communicate with some of the high school students. They still send me text messages when we do well in the races, when we have cool paint schemes. In fact, Carson, who lives in Connecticut, is fanatic, an LFR 95 fanatic, and he saw Travis wearing one of our team jackets on an Instagram post because it was cold in Fontana. Yeah. And Carson's like, hey, man, can I get one of those jackets? I'm like, hey, apply for a job. You can get a jacket anytime you want. So, but
bring your talents
bring
LFR,
your talents back to LFR, right?
Yeah.
And, and I never really thought about that maybe it could be a self-recruiting tool later on. It's
absolutely. You're building
self-liquidating. We're building a database of people to come back.
Yeah,
but the goal of it is really to give high school students the opportunity to learn more about the sport and educate them so that they understand that there's more to it than just drivers and crew chiefs.
Listen, I think that's great because you tell sponsors this all the time. It's not just about a driver. There's, however many thousands of people.
You're sponsoring the race team.
Building the car, right?
Yeah.
It's a team, and we look at it because we both have been in sports marketing for a long time. Everybody thinks sports marketing means you want to be the general manager of an NFL team, and you kind of realize
there's only one of those. There's only 32 of those.
Only
right?
32 of those,
yeah.
and some of the best network people I know of one person who's probably ever going to be a candidate in that. So, how do you touch sports? How do you touch things you're passionate about? There's lots of ways to do it, and I think what you're doing there is pretty cool.
Yeah, we're really excited. And, the cool part about it is our ownership has really bought into it. Yeah. Last year Bob flew down, and I think he was traveling the first day, and he couldn't make it. And he flew in special that second day and closed the camp, and the kids loved it. I mean, talking to a NASCAR owner.
Yeah.
I mean, small, medium, or large, Bob still owns a NASCAR team, and he still is as passionate about the sport than any other owner out there.
It's only 35 of those who are getting to show up every week.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So for sure.
Yeah. Well, good stuff. Jeremy, thanks, man. This is good. Good conversation. I'm excited for what all's going on at LFR. And appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
This has been the Market Share Sports Podcast, dedicated to helping brands maximize their sponsorships and create more engaging experiences. Visit us at marketsharesports.com to learn more about our work, catch up on past episodes, and sign up for our newsletter. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Thanks again for joining us.